I forgot the order. Who's next? Bulgaria. Come on up.
Hello? Yeah. Hi everybody. Merhaba komşular. We have more than 1,000 words in Turkish words in Bulgarian, but this is the only thing that I could make in Turkish. Very glad to be here. I would like to tell you the story of the Bulgarian startup ecosystem, but before saying that, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Daniel. I'm coming from 11, which is an accelerator venture fund in Bulgaria. We manage 12 million euro. We invest in startups all across southeast of Europe, and we, together with our friends from Launch Hub in Bulgaria, we invest in something like 100 startups per year. I was thinking on the way to Antalya about the name of the presentation, and I used this slogan from our landing page, innovation happens at the edge. And it's a metaphor for what happens in Bulgaria. It's really becoming a very vibrant startup ecosystem because it's on the edge of the old system, socialist system that was 20 years ago, and the new world that we have now. And also it's on the edge of the Western civilization, the East civilization. And it's also a metaphor for all the interdisciplinary things that happen in Bulgaria between fundamental sciences, design, product development. And it's becoming a melting pot for a lot of startups coming out of the region. And we already, in Bulgaria, we have startup with attracting startups from the whole region, from Romania. We have a Turkish team here present today. We have the teams from Serbia, from Croatia, from Sweden, from all across the region. I would like very much to feel and experience the startup ecosystem, but it's very difficult to bring it here today. So I decided to play a small video that was shooted like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so you could have a feel about the ecosystem. If it starts. Yeah. Okay, it was shot by young guys that are just the aspiring entrepreneurs. There's no voice. Should I stop it? Should I start again? It's fine. Now it's the previous one. Should I do something, or you're playing it? Me? Okay.
Actually, I think we have all the things in place here in Bulgaria to have a very strong startup community.
The energy around entrepreneurs and people starting businesses in Bulgaria, not only in Bulgaria but around the world, is amazing.
The country's changed hugely in the last 3.5 years.
It's a very easy thing to experiment here.
It's our friends from Launch Hub.
You know, a lot more value for your money.
Some foreign entrepreneurs coming to Bulgaria.
Is the future expansion.
I see the changes that I make. I see the impact that I make to the environment.
We need some good examples. We need some hard-working teams.
You've got enthusiastic people. I mean, you've got enthusiastic investors.
Atmosphere here. The people we work with.
It's one of our Romanian teams at 11.
Help each other. We can learn from each other.
It works like a magnet because it's very positively inclined and...
There's huge amount of talent, and if you've got a good idea, if you've got a good project, it's really easy to kind of get good people to work on.
It's the attitude. It's like, okay, here's a challenge, and I'm going to find a way to overcome that challenge.
This is some of the foreign entrepreneurs that came years ago and they stayed in Bulgaria forever.
We close the gap between the business skills of the people and the engineering.
From the administrative point of view, it's much easier. From the business point of view, I think it's the same.
From a few disparate organizations, we're now seeing an actual entrepreneurship community coming together.
So generally we are making the world know that there is a startup community happening actively in Bulgaria. There is a product of that community.
This thing here is to be productive, capable, and to want to live here in Bulgaria, to make business here in Bulgaria.
If I compare the initiative and the sort of go-getting attitude and the sort of creativity I see in Asia versus Bulgaria, we kick their butt.
You need someone in the TV stations, you pick up the phone, you got the guy. So you need someone from big companies, so you just pick up the phone.
It's fresh, it's new, it's up to new ideas.
Being an entrepreneur, you have the chance to fulfill your potential, to do what you really love.
We have to embrace risk. We have to decide to embark on something that we don't know about, trusting ourselves.
So I believe, yes, these are the guys which have the potential, have the talent, and have the willingness to change our country.
And it rocks.
So come here and make business here in Bulgaria.
Okay, so this is kind of the mix that we have in Bulgaria. Everybody's together in this adventure, in this journey to make this startup ecosystem. And what you saw, these are the kind of the ingredients in each ecosystem, and we have all the ingredients like the entrepreneurs, the capital, the government, corporations, education, and the fabric, which is the culture. For years they were developing, and now they come to the point where we have the tipping point. And actually that's why I put 18%, because according to a recent Harvard Business Review, if 18% of the community is sharing the same values, then you have the tipping point. So everything starts from there. So we are already there, and if you look, this is a map of the different ecosystems around the world, and Google being one of our partners at 11, you could see that Sofia is already on the map, on the global map there, together with other ecosystems. So we are one of the emerging, very young and vibrant ecosystems where we have critical mass with a lot of startups and a lot of things happening there. And but how everything started, it was a very rough journey. We all aspire to different startup ecosystems. Everybody's looking to Silicon Valley, to the ecosystem in Boulder, Colorado, to New York ecosystem, to the Israeli ecosystem, and all they have different genesis. And the one in Bulgaria is very interesting. Before coming to this event, I haven't thought about how everything started, because being into the ecosystem, you don't make account of these things. But everything started a long time ago. During the Soviet bloc times, Bulgaria was the Silicon Valley of the whole socialist system. All the R&D, all the technology was done in Bulgaria. And after the changes, what happened is that everything crashed, and there was a free fall. Like some of you guys experienced that came with a plane on Thursday. Somebody complained there was a free fall for some of the planes. So everything collapsed. There was a big brain drain. Almost 1.5 million people left Bulgaria, and most of these people were very skillful people. They went to the US, to Western Europe, and everything had to start again. I mean, the whole country, we had an economic crisis, everything started from zero. So it was like the restart of the whole ecosystem. And everybody now looking retrospectively, everybody started without thinking about it, started with the startup culture to rebuild the place. So the whole software engineering industry started again with outsourcing, which was the low level. Then it's very quickly got to BPO outsourcing destination, I mean business processing. And in the beginning of 2000, 2002, the government started a deliberate policy of positioning Bulgaria as a place where you have a lot of skilled talent and a lot of companies, big companies, global technology leaders started establishing their presence in Bulgaria. SAP Labs acquired a Bulgarian company and they established their second R&D center in the world after Germany. HP established themselves here. VMware bought a Bulgarian company and they established one of the biggest development centers there. Ubisoft established themselves here. So a lot of companies, Microsoft as well, a lot of companies came to Bulgaria. And what happened is that all these Bulgarian engineers, they starting from outsourcing. They moved through BPO, through on the upper hill of more highly skilled services. So they actually gradually they reached to the level where they started producing and exporting products, real products. If in the beginning all the revenues were 100% services, like now we have 60% coming from products and R&D and remaining is services. And this was a natural development and we start having the first global leaders. I mean, we have good examples are Telerik that received a huge investment from Summit. They have 10 offices on 3 continents, and they're on the way for their IPO on Nasdaq. So and this was a natural development, and then we had the startup bug, which started like 2008, 2009. A lot of initiatives started in Bulgaria, which are aimed at developing entrepreneurship and startups. And everything was developing, but there was a need for a spark. And this spark actually, appeared last year when finally the Jeremy program, which is a joint effort of the Bulgarian government and the European Investment Fund, there was a pool of 200 million euro that was allocated equity instruments for the entrepreneurs in Bulgaria. And out of that, only 21 million euro is for startups. So going back to all these ingredients, I mean, the first, which is the leading one, is actually the entrepreneurs. That's why it's so big, apart from the length of the word. But it's really the leaders in each ecosystem, and it was the case in Bulgaria. I mean, they were pushing for years, and I was witnessing this development because I was involved in startups since 2000, both as an investor, mentor, and founder myself. So everything started with the push of entrepreneurs in all various directions. And what we see is very interesting. I call it the Generation Z, X, and Y. The Generation Z were the people that are now in their 50s, 60s, that they established, now they're very mature, wise people. They survived through many crises, and they're real fighters. So what happened with them is that they were the founders of this ecosystem, and now they're becoming mentors and angel investors for the younger generation of entrepreneurs. And then the Generation X, which is more or less my generation, they started with their startups like 2000, 2001, and now we have, now they're becoming role models like Telerik, like guys that left to the US and established companies like a good example is Sev1, which recently received $150 million from Bain Capital. And the Generation Y are the youngest generation that are in their early 20s, and we see a lot of startups coming from this generation. They have totally different mentality. They're not afraid to fail, which is a very common thing that we see around Europe. But they say, okay, we want to try, and they're really not relying on government or whatever. They prefer not to go in corporations, but really to start something on their own. So it's probably because we lost a generation during the crisis, and we needed probably these 15 years in order to reach to this point where these 3 generations are working in a great way together. And here is a good example of some of the companies that come out of Bulgaria. Like the companies on the bottom line are companies that were the Generation Z companies that became regional European leaders in specific fields. Like Fadata is almost a global leader in different insurance products. And we have Telerik, we have Telelink, Mosala, Access Software. I saw that yesterday somebody from Jordan mentioned Access Software, but it's one of the leading game developers in Europe now. And we have companies on the top which are now emerging, and some of these companies were actually established by Bulgarians that went to study and they stayed in the US. But it's not just the entrepreneurs. I mean, everybody should be involved in the ecosystem, and we have these corporations that establishes businesses in Bulgaria, and they came not for cheap labor, but they came because of the R&D. And you know that most of the companies, their first destination for big corporations to go for our R&D is actually in Israel. But you know where Israeli do their R&D? It's actually in Bulgaria. There are a lot of Israeli companies that establish R&D offices in Bulgaria. And actually, it's R&D destination now. So all of these companies have huge offices now in Bulgaria. And another very interesting component is the government. And again, pushed by the entrepreneurs, especially the Generation Z entrepreneurs. A lot of things developed, a lot of initiatives happened throughout the years. And what happened, actually, we see the result today. In terms of infrastructure, Bulgaria has a very strong internet infrastructure, like it's number 3 in terms of fastest internet in the world, number 10 in terms of in the world of broadband quality internet. There is Wi-Fi everywhere, literally. You go in the park, you have internet. You go in every cafeteria, in every public building, everywhere, in every school, you have free Wi-Fi, no passwords, no nothing. And also there is one of the best 3G and 4G networks in the world. So you could have Skype call or Viber call in the street. So it's all these ingredients were deliberate initiatives of the government, and it's very helpful for building technology startups in Bulgaria. Other very interesting things, very recent developments, not very recent, is the 10%. I mean, a lot of startups actually prefer to come to Bulgaria because actually, from a macroeconomic point, it's very stable. We have 10%, which is both on corporate and personal level, and this is just it. And also now there is, on a high level, it's priority, but not just on paper. Priority is technology. That's why we have this strategy, Bulgaria 2020. And the president, the new president of Bulgaria, who is a civil engineer by education and a former very successful entrepreneur, technology is one of their priority, and we see a lot of people and from the president's office being mentors with our startups, and we have informal meetings every month where we sit together, people from the corporations, from the entrepreneurs, from the VCs, from the government, and we just dream about what we would like to do with Bulgaria. And one of the new projects which is under the auspices of the president is actually the Sofia Tech Park, where it's 150 million allocated for this, which will be a great boost for the ecosystem. And also there is a new law on innovation which is combined with a huge fund for innovation for fundamental research. Education, of course, plays also a very good role, very important role in this ecosystem. And everybody complains about education in their own country. But actually, despite all the complaints that we have, and we would like to see education evolving in a much better way in Bulgaria, it's actually delivering. We have a lot of talent coming out of the universities. We have in almost every high school, we have entrepreneurship and technology from first grade. Actually, from last year, we have entrepreneurship, which is pushed by the junior achievement, actually included in the core program from first grade. And what I see here is very much reminds me of, I don't see Oren here from Lee Ventures, but he made a presentation in Israel, how they started like 20 years ago, and what are the results, and we are somewhere in the middle. So it's developing in a great way. And now there is this dialogue which we wanted for many years between the industry, the entrepreneurs, and the education. And what we see now is, for example, Telerik, which is one of the leading companies not only Bulgaria, but it's a global leader. They established a Telerik Academy where for the last 1 year, 5,000 people went through the academy. So it's playing its role. And we have the fabric, or somebody calls it the culture, but it's all these visible and invisible things that go together in a great way. And it's one of these things that we see some of the logos of all the things that happen in Bulgaria. I mean, every week there are about at least 10 events for entrepreneurs. There are a lot of startup competitions. There are challenges in every universities. Now there are challenges for young engineers in the schools. You have and it's not just for the kids, but you involve also the entrepreneurs. You involve people from industry, for big industry. Like, for example, with Junior Achievement, I mean, on the board of advisors are people from HP, from VMware, from other big corporations. Everybody's involved in everything that happens there. And we see another very important thing is that the diaspora, all these 1.5 million people that went abroad, they're actually reconnected in a powerful way, because most of them, especially in the US, like Voivoda Ventures, Enrique is here. The founder of Voivoda Ventures is a very successful Bulgarian entrepreneur who sold 2 of his companies to listed companies in the US, and they now reconnect with Bulgaria in a great way, and they're helping the startups going to the US, to the Silicon Valley. And there are many others that are helping us and working very closely with entrepreneurs in Bulgaria, which is very important. And I saw that you have a lot of examples here from about Turkish entrepreneurs that are very successful in the US. The other thing is that the whole ecosystem is very inclusive. I mean, people are helping each other. There is no restrictions who is in, who is out. And whoever wants to join, he joins, and everybody welcomes people. And failure is, people are not talk about failure. And on a recent event for Start It Smart, there was an incredible thing. I mean, 2 guys came, they were in the competition. They failed 3 months later. And they came, all the founders, they came and said, we failed. We had a big quarrel among ourselves, and we split. And they talk about the failure, but nobody condemned them about this. But actually, they joined other startups. So actually, nobody's left behind. And even in the difficult times, because in Bulgaria there were a lot of difficult times, when in 2001 we established the Bulgarian Association of Software Companies. And I know that there were companies that were in difficult times. They lost big clients, and this was a big hit for them. But nobody left them behind. Actually, other companies transferred business to them so they could survive. And everybody's returning the favor afterwards. That's why in Bulgaria we have a lot of mentorship, actually, because everybody used to help somebody else. And it's very important for the system. And the other thing is that we have all this emergence of co-working space, which is a great forum for startups to meet and talk and dream and do incredible things. And the other thing, the last thing to say here is that everybody's sharing the same dream. And I do remember in 2001 when we half-jokingly said, we would like to see the technology industry in Bulgaria reaching 1 billion in 10 years. Actually, it happened a year later, but it's 1 billion. So it's very important, the fabric. And of course we have, it's on the scene well, but we, of course, as a young, vibrant ecosystem, we have the challenges which are almost, even for mature ecosystem, you have the same challenges. Although there is a capital for startups, it's usually not enough. We are investing in Bulgaria like in 100 startups per year. Just our 2 funds, like 11 and Launch Hub. And there are many other things going on. But it's not enough. The angel network is still nascent, and we are working on reviving and combining a lot of people together. So it's something that we need more. Like somebody said, you need 50 times more capital. The human cloth, which I say, all this mentorship, because its capital is not enough. I mean, you should have the mentors around that are introducing to other people, the leads that are giving you. It's very important that you have more and more. We have mentors from not only from the region, not only from Bulgaria, not only and we have global from the worldwide. We have mentors. Marvin, if he's around, he's one of on our mentors list. But we need more, because startups are very the survival rate is very low with startups. So you need a lot of human cloth around. And the other thing which is a challenge for us, it's a curse and a bless. I was listening to the pitches the last 2 days, and everybody's focused on Turkey because it's a big market. And on one hand, everybody's saying, yeah, I would like to have such a big market. But it's a bless, but on the other hand, it's a curse, because in Bulgaria, we don't have this big market. So nobody starts with any idea about the local market. Everybody's starting with the idea that they will make something global, they will disrupt something. And actually, they start with this great ambition, which is quite helpful. Another thing that is a big challenge, and I see it here, is also about the visibility. How our region is, and the startups I see, they're very shy. And if you go to the valley, or if you go to Israel, I mean, people are shouting, dancing, and all that. So it's very something that everybody should work in these ecosystems around. And the last thing which is very important is you shouldn't import models of Silicon Valley or something else. But actually the recipe, and I hear it more and more around the world, is actually to build bridges between all the ecosystems. And this is how you get your own ecosystem starts getting stronger. So I would like very much to build bridges with you guys and to listen to your stories. So I'll be very happy to catch up with you later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel.